So last lecture we talked about fiscal policy and we said it could be two decisions. So expansionary fiscal policy or contractionary fiscal policy. So economists take one of these two decisions based on the status of the economy. So if the economy is here, so is at point 1, quantity 1, so aggregate demand intersects with aggregate supply here. So we have what problem in this economy? We have a recessionary problem. Why? Because we are producing quantity 1 while we should produce quantity n, Qn here. So we should be at this point, or we should be at this point. So in Keynesian theory, expansionary fiscal policy moves the economy here. So we are in a recessionary gap. So we have a problem in our economy that we are producing quantity 1 while we should produce quantity n, Qn, natural real GDP. So we should what? Increase the demand till we reach here, the intersection with long run aggregate supply and at the same time short run aggregate supply. So we should move to here. So what decision should economists take to increase the aggregate demand? So we said here we have two decisions: expansionary fiscal policy or contractionary fiscal policy. This one, the expansionary يعني increasing. So if we take this decision, we will increase the government expenditures. So when we increase the government expenditures, so the aggregate demand will increase, because in previous chapter we said that aggregate demand contains what? يتكون من 4 مكونات: consumption, investment, government purchases or government expenditures, and finally net exports. طيب إذا زادت هذه البارتس بيزيد الأجريجيت demand وبالتالي لون بيفعل shift لليمين to the right. If these parts of aggregate demand decreased or fall, also the aggregate demand will fall. So here in expansionary fiscal policy, we said we have increase in government expenditures. So when we have increase in government expenditures, so the aggregate demand will shift to the right. بيكون في increase in the aggregate demand. طيب متى يحصل expansionary fiscal policy? When we increase the government expenditures or and يا إما both، يا إما يزيد government expenditures and taxes also what? Decrease, or increase in government purchases or decrease in taxes. So expansionary fiscal policy نتخذ يعني 2 points: يا إما increase in government expenditures أو decrease in taxes, or both. We do both. We increase the government expenditures and we decrease the taxes, because we said when taxes on incomes or taxes on investments التاكسز تقل، ايش يحصل؟ يزيد الانفستمنت ويزيد الايش؟ الكونسومشن. علاقة ايش؟ غير مباشرة، انه لما تنقص التاكسز ايش يحصل؟ للاجريجيت ديماند يزيد. ليش يزيد الاجريجيت ديماند؟ لانه لما تنقص التاكسز الضرائب تزيد الكونسومشن، يزيد الكونسومشن الاستهلاك. ليش؟ لأن الضرائب على الديسبوزل انكم لما تقل بيزيد المعاش، لما يزيد المعاش الكونسومشن الاستهلاك يزيد. ولما taxes on investment، taxes على مثلا أرباح الشركات تقل، هذا يشجع أن الناس يستثمروا أكثر. ف decrease in taxes, increase in investment or increase in consumption. So this is expansionary fiscal policy. Let's examine it here in a graph. So we are in a recessionary gap. When we are in a recessionary gap, so we will take what? An expansionary fiscal policy. So increased government purchases, decreased taxes, or both lead to what? Lead to a rightward shift in the aggregate demand curve from D1, this is D1, to D2, restoring the economy to the natural level of real GDP. So we were here, we were in a problem. ايش اسم البروبلم هنا؟ recessionary gap. recessionary gap. شوفوا الجاب هنا. How can we restore, how can we heal this economy? By increasing the government purchases or decreasing the taxes or both. That will lead to what? To increase an aggregate demand, and we will reach to what? To long run or to the natural level of real GDP. So expansionary fiscal policy will eliminate the recessionary gap. So this is very important. What about the inflationary gap? So the economy is at this problem, inflationary gap. إيش معنى inflationary gap? Inflationary gap is here. This is the graph that shows you the inflationary gap. So we are here, Q1, while we should be here, Qn. So we are producing more than we should produce. So this is aggregate supply, short run aggregate supply, and this is aggregate demand. The intersection is here. So we are here at this point, while we should be here. So what problem the economy is in? It is an inflationary gap. So to solve this problem, what should economists do? They should what? Take a contractionary fiscal policy. إيش معنى contractionary fiscal policy? That means decreased in government purchases, يقللوا government purchases, or increase taxes, or both. طيب ال contractionary fiscal policy could be a decreasing in government purchases or increasing in taxes, or both. We decrease government purchases and we increase taxes. So that will lead to what? That will lead to a leftward shift in the aggregate demand, يعني a decrease in demand from D1 to D2. So this is D1. It will shift to the left, يعني بينقص ال aggregate demand هنا. ليش بينقص ال aggregate demand؟ لأنه لما ينقص ال government purchases or expenditures أكيد ال aggregate demand بينقص. لأن إيش مكونات ال aggregate demand؟ 4 parts اللي هي ال consumption، اللي هو ال investment، government expenditures and net exports. طيب إيش حصل ال government expenditures؟ ال government expenditures or purchases قلت هنا. ليش؟ لأنه عملنا contractionary fiscal policy, so the aggregate demand will decrease. And السبب الثاني increase in taxes. طيب كيف ال increase in taxes تقلل من ال aggregate demand؟ هنا بطريقة غير مباشرة، إنه لما تزيد ال taxes on income or taxes on investment، إيش بيحصل لل investment؟ بيقل. إيش بيحصل لل consumption؟ بيقل. لأنه لما يزيدوا الضرائب على الرواتب، أو لما يزيدوا الضرائب على نسبة الأرباح في الشركات، هذا إيش؟ عامل محبط لهم. في الانفستمنتس تقل، الاستثمارات تقل، والكونسومشن الاستهلاك الشخصي يقل. ليش؟ لأنه زادت الضرائب على المعاشات أو على الانكم. فإيش بيحصل الأجريجيت ديماند لما الجفرمنت purchases تقل، ولما taxes تزيد الأجريجيت demand will shift to the left and it will move to the natural level of real GDP QN here. When should we do this? The contractionary fiscal policy when we are, or when the economy is at what? Inflationary gap. So this is very important to know. When should we use expansionary fiscal policy and contractionary fiscal policy? So economists should know the problem, then they will use what? The cure. So we have two types of cures, which is expansionary or contractionary. When the economy is at recessionary gap, we use expansionary. When the economy is at inflationary gap, so economists use contractionary fiscal policy. So what does an expansionary fiscal policy? It means increases in government expenditures or decreases in what? Taxes, or both. What does contractionary fiscal policy mean? يعني decreasing government expenditures or increasing taxes or both. طيب, these two policies affect what? Affect the aggregate demand, and we use it to fix the two problems of the economy, the expansionary gap and inflationary gap.